The great crystal hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such panic. 12 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, their voices rising in fear and desperation. The hologram in the center showed the same terrible image that had haunted their dreams for months. Empty space where the Rigel system used to be. "Gone," whispered Elder Veltara, her blue skin pale with shock. An entire system with 40 billion souls just gone. The Void Hunters had struck again. These mysterious creatures appeared from nowhere, consumed everything in their path and left only darkness behind. No one knew where they came from or how to stop them. In 6 months, they had destroyed 8 star systems and were moving toward the heart of galactic civilization. Ambassador Taijin Kim sat quietly in the corner of the hall. As Earth's representative, he was barely tolerated at these meetings. The other species saw humans as newcomers, violent and primitive. They had only allowed Earth into the Council 5 years ago, and even then with great reluctance. "We must evacuate," said High Chancellor Mordek, his forearms gesturing wildly. "All civilian populations from the outer rim worlds must be moved to the core systems." "And when the Void Hunters reach the core systems?" asked another voice. "Where do we run then?" The room fell silent. They all knew the answer. There was nowhere left to run. Dr. So-Young Park leaned over to whisper in Taejin's ear. "They're going to ask us for help with the evacuation." I can see it coming. She was right. The xenobiologist had been studying alien behavior for years and could read the signs. The Council was desperate, and humans had the largest merchant fleet in the galaxy. Earth ships could move millions of refugees quickly. Elder Veltara stood up slowly. Her species, the Altarians, had founded the Galactic Council 3,000 years ago. They prided themselves on being peaceful and wise. The idea of asking humans for help clearly pained her. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "it is time to consider alternative assistance." All eyes turned to Taejin. He felt the weight of their stares and stood up calmly. "You want our ships," he said simply. "Your merchant vessels are fast and numerous," admitted Chancellor Mordek. "We need help moving our people to safety. We can offer trade agreements, technology exchanges." Taejin held up his hand. "I need to contact Earth. This decision is above my authority." The aliens nodded, relief visible on their faces. Finally, someone was willing to help with their evacuation plans. 3 hours later, Taejin stood in the communication chamber aboard the human embassy ship. The quantum link crackled to life, and President Jin Ho-yoon's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Taejin could see the Seoul skyline through the office windows. "Mr. President," Taejin began, "the Galactic Council is requesting our assistance with refugee evacuation. The Void Hunter situation is worse than we thought." President Yoon listened carefully as Taejin explained the situation. 8 destroyed systems, billions dead, an enemy that seemed unstoppable. "What exactly are they asking for?" President Yoon asked. "Ships, sir. They want our merchant fleet to help move civilians away from the danger zones." There was a long pause. President Yoon looked off-screen, apparently consulting with advisors. "Ambassador Kim," the president said finally, "please inform the Council that Earth will respond to their request. However, we need time to prepare our own response. Tell them to expect our answer within 24 hours. The transmission ended, leaving Taejin puzzled. The president's tone had been strange, almost secretive. What kind of preparation did moving refugees require? Back on Earth, President Yoon was already in the war room beneath the Capitol building. General Hee-jin Nam stood at the center of a massive holographic display showing the galaxy. Red zones marked the areas where Void Hunters had struck. "They want us to run," General Nam said, her voice hard. "Pack up the civilians and run away like scared children." "What do our military analysts say about these Void Hunters?" President Yoon asked. Commander Dong-Woo Lee stepped forward. He was the head of Earth's Deep Space Defense Force, a man who had spent his career preparing for threats the rest of the galaxy couldn't imagine. "Based on the data we've gathered, sir, they're definitely dangerous. But they're not invincible. The aliens have never tried to fight them properly." "Explain." "Every engagement has been the same pattern," Lee continued. "The aliens see the Void Hunters coming, panic, and either run or throw their ships away in desperate, uncoordinated attacks. They've never tried real military tactics." General Nam nodded. "The galaxy has been at peace for so long they've forgotten how to wage war. They have exploration fleets, science vessels, even some patrol ships, but no real military." President Yoon studied the holographic display. And we do. Yes, sir. Earth has maintained a full military force since joining the galactic community. The aliens think we're primitive because we still have weapons and soldiers. They don't understand that we kept our military precisely for situations like this. The president walked around the display, examining the Void Hunter attack patterns. What would it take to mount a proper defense? Give me 3 fleets in 6 months, General Nam said confidently. I can stop them. You have it, President Yoon decided. Commander Lee, begin mobilizing our deep space forces immediately. General Nam, start drawing up battle plans. Dr. Kang from the Research Division will provide technical support. As the meeting broke up, President Yoon called Commander Lee aside. Commander, when you contact Ambassador Kim, make sure he understands something. The aliens asked for our help with evacuation. We're going to help them, but not the way they expect. The next day, Ambassador Tae-jin Kim stood before the Galactic Council once more. The alien representatives looked hopeful as he approached the speaking platform. The Earth government has considered your request, Tae-jin announced. We will provide assistance with the Void Hunter crisis. Relief washed over the assembled aliens. Finally, someone was willing to help. However, Tae-jin continued, Earth will not be providing evacuation ships. The relief turned to confusion, then anger. What do you mean? Elder Veltara demanded. Earth will be sending military forces to engage the Void Hunters directly. The hall erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Chancellor Mordek's forearms waved frantically. We asked for peace, Elder Veltara cried out above the noise. We asked for help with our refugees, not for you to start a war. Tae-jin waited for the noise to die down. When he spoke again, his voice was calm but firm. The council asked for help stopping the Void Hunters. Running away doesn't stop them. It just gives them more time to destroy more systems. Earth chooses to fight. This is madness, whispered the Chancellor. Humans are too primitive to understand the true danger. But Dr. So-Young Park, standing beside Tae-jin, smiled grimly. Perhaps the galaxy is about to learn that sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. 3 weeks after Earth's shocking announcement, the galaxy watched in disbelief as human warships began arriving at staging areas throughout the Outer Rim. These were not the sleek, elegant vessels that other species built. Human ships looked brutal and practical, covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons that most aliens had never seen before. Captain Kyung-soo Choi stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, Earth's newest experimental warship. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see dozens of other human vessels preparing for the journey to the front lines. Heavy cruisers, fast destroyers, and massive dreadnoughts all bore the blue and white emblem of Earth's military forces. Captain, called Lieutenant Mi-young Shin from her tactical station, we're receiving another protest transmission from the Altarian fleet. Put it through, Kyung-soo sighed. Elder Veltara's face appeared on the main screen. Her blue features twisted with frustration and fear. Captain Choi, I must protest once again. Your fleet is heading directly into Void Hunter territory. This is not evacuation or refugee assistance. This is an act of war against creatures we do not understand. Elder Veltara, Kyung-soo replied respectfully. With respect, your people have been running from these creatures for months. Running hasn't solved the problem. We are a peaceful civilization. We do not solve problems through violence. General Hee-jin Nam's voice cut into the conversation from the fleet flagship Soul's Pride. Elder Veltara, peace is a luxury that exists only when someone is willing to fight for it. Earth is willing to fight. The transmission ended abruptly as the Elder cut the connection. Lieutenant Shin shook her head. They really don't understand, do they, Captain? Kyung-soo looked out at the stars ahead. How could they? Most of their species have lived in peace for thousands of years. They've never had to fight for survival. On Earth, the preparations continued around the clock, in underground facilities that most aliens never knew existed. Human engineers worked frantically to modify their weapons for space combat against an unknown enemy. Dr. Young-min Kang stood in the center of the weapons research laboratory, surrounded by holographic displays showing Void Hunter attack patterns. As Earth's leading weapons physicist, he had been tasked with finding a way to hurt creatures that seemed immune to conventional attacks. The problem, he explained to his team, is that normal energy weapons pass right through them. The aliens' lasers and plasma cannons are useless. What about kinetic weapons? Asked his assistant, Dr. Hanul Seo. Interesting idea. The reports suggest that Void Hunters have some kind of phase-shifting ability. Energy passes through them, but solid matter might still have an effect. Dr. Kang pulled up footage from the Battle of Rigel, the last major engagement before that system was destroyed. The video showed alien ships firing their best weapons at the Void Hunters with no visible effect. Look at this. He pointed to a section of the video. The alien plasma beams go right through the Void Hunter hull. But here, when debris from a destroyed ship hits them, there's definitely an impact. His team studied the footage carefully. Dr. Seo enhanced the image, zooming in on the moment of impact. You're right. Physical objects can touch them even if energy cannot. Dr. Kang smiled grimly. Then we'll hit them with something very physical. Prepare the kinetic impactor designs. If energy won't work, we'll use good old-fashioned momentum. Meanwhile, on the front lines, the few remaining alien defenders watched in amazement as the first human scout ships arrived in the contested zone. These were not the careful, cautious probe ships that aliens typically used for reconnaissance. Commander Dongwu Li piloted his fast attack craft directly into Void Hunter territory. Sensors at maximum range, weapons armed and ready. His ship was small, fast, and built for exactly this kind of dangerous mission. Contact, called his sensor operator. 3 Void Hunter scouts bearing 27 Mark V. Lock weapons and engage, Li ordered calmly. The human ship opened fire with experimental kinetic cannons, firing dense metal slugs at incredible velocity. The Void Hunters, expecting their usual immunity to alien weapons, were caught completely off guard as the solid projectiles tore through their hulls. Direct hits on all 3 targets, reported the weapons officer, excitement clear in his voice. They're actually taking damage. Li smiled fiercely. Message to Fleet Command. Kinetic weapons are effective. Repeat, kinetic weapons work against Void Hunter vessels. This news spread quickly through the human fleet, and then to the stunned alien observers. For the first time in months, someone had actually hurt the Void Hunters. But the aliens' surprise at human military effectiveness was nothing compared to their shock at human military philosophy. Captain Yunji Wu demonstrated this during her first patrol mission near the Kepler defense line. Her squadron of 12 fighters encountered a damaged Altarian science vessel being pursued by Void Hunter raiders. The standard alien response would have been to call for backup and attempt a rescue with overwhelming force. Captain Wu had a different approach. All fighters, attack formation Delta, she ordered. We're going straight at them. Her squadron dove directly into the Void Hunter formation, fighters weaving between the much larger enemy ships, kinetic cannons blazing. The Void Hunters had never faced this kind of aggressive, close-quarters fighting. Within minutes, 2 Void Hunter ships were destroyed, and the others were retreating. The Altarian science vessel was safe. When the rescue was reported to Elder Veltara, she could barely comprehend what she was hearing. 12 small fighters attacked 6 Void Hunter raiders? She asked in disbelief. Yes, Elder, replied the Altarian captain they had rescued. The human fighters just attacked. No hesitation, no calling for reinforcements. They simply dove straight into combat. That's suicidal. It was effective, the captain said quietly. Those humans saved my ship and crew without losing a single fighter. As reports like this spread throughout the galaxy, a strange thing began to happen. The alien species that had dismissed humanity as primitive and violent began to realize that perhaps these traits were exactly what the galaxy needed. Dr. So-Young Park, now serving as a liaison between human and alien forces, found herself explaining human military thinking to confused alien commanders. You have to understand, she told a group of Centaurian officers, humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. We've developed tactics and strategies that you've never needed. But war is wasteful and destructive, protested one of the Centaurians. Yes, Dr. Park agreed, but sometimes destruction is necessary to protect what matters. Sometimes you have to be willing to fight to preserve peace. The breakthrough came when Major Insu Kim, Earth's intelligence officer, presented his analysis of Void Hunter behavior to the combined fleet commanders. They're not just random destroyers, he explained, pointing to tactical displays. There's a pattern to their attacks. They're working toward something specific. What kind of pattern? Asked General Nam. They're not just consuming star systems for energy or resources. They're moving in a direct line toward the galactic core, specifically toward the sector where most of the Council species originated. The implications were terrifying. The Void Hunters weren't just destroying random systems. They were targeting the heart of galactic civilization itself. How long do we have? asked Elder Veltara, who had been listening to the briefing. Major Kim's expression was grim. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the core systems in 4 months. 4 months to save a civilization that has existed for thousands of years, General Nam said quietly. No pressure. But as the human fleet continued to prepare for the coming battle, something unexpected happened. Alien ships began joining the human formations. Not many at first, just a few scout vessels and converted civilian craft. But the number grew each day. It seemed that the galaxy was finally ready to fight back. They just needed someone to show them how. Captain Kyung-Soo Choi looked out at the growing fleet of human and alien vessels and felt a strange mixture of pride and sadness. Pride that Earth was leading the fight to save the galaxy, sadness that it had come to this. Lieutenant Shin, he called to his tactical officer. Message to all ships. We jump to the front lines in 6 hours. It's time to show the Void Hunters what happens when the galaxy fights back. The Kepler defense line had once been the pride of galactic engineering. Massive space stations and defensive platforms stretched across 3 star systems, designed to protect the inner worlds from any threat. Now it was a graveyard. Admiral Jae-sung. Oh stood on the bridge of his flagship Daegu's hammer, studying the wreckage through the viewing ports. Twisted metal and debris floated where proud alien fleets had made their last stand. 3 different species had thrown everything they had at the Void Hunters here. All 3 fleets had been destroyed. Sensor report, Admiral O called to his bridge crew. Multiple Void Hunter signatures detected, reported the sensor operator. At least 30 large vessels plus smaller support craft. They're just sitting there, sir, waiting for us, O said grimly. They know we're coming. The human fleet that emerged from hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen in battle formation. The aliens built their ships for exploration and peaceful contact. Humans built their ships for war. The Soul's Pride led the formation, its massive bulk bristling with kinetic cannon turrets and missile launchers. Around it, smaller cruisers and destroyers moved in perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where it needed to be. But the most shocking sight was the converted civilian vessels. Human mining ships, cargo haulers, and even passenger liners had been hastily armed and armored. What would have horrified the peaceful alien species as a waste of resources, humans saw as necessary pragmatism. Admiral, called Captain Kyung-Soo Choi from the Indomitable, the Void Hunters are moving to intercept. Oh studied the tactical display. The enemy formation was impressive. Dozens of biomechanical ships that seemed to shift and flow like living creatures. Their hulls showed no clear weapon ports or engine exhausts. They simply moved through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. Dr. Kang, Oh called to the chief weapons scientist, are you ready to test your theories? Dr. Young-Min Kang nodded from his position at the science station. Kinetic weapons are loaded and ready, sir. If our analysis is correct, solid projectiles should penetrate their phase-shifted hulls. And if you're wrong, then we'll find out very quickly, Admiral. The first exchange of fire lit up the darkness of space. The Void Hunters opened with energy weapons that had torn through alien fleets like paper. Beams of twisted light lanced out toward the human ships, but where alien vessels had been helpless against these attacks, human ships were ready. Thick armor plating absorbed much of the energy impact, and what got through was handled by damage control teams that had trained for exactly this situation. Minimal damage to the fleet, reported the tactical officer. Hull breaches on 3 destroyers, but they're still combat effective. Return fire, Admiral O ordered. The human response was devastating. Instead of energy weapons, the fleet opened up with kinetic cannons, railguns, and missile barrages. Solid metal projectiles traveling at incredible speeds slammed into the Void Hunter formation. For the first time in months, Void Hunter ships took real damage. Hulls that had seemed immune to attack cracked and shattered under the impact of human weapons. Direct hits on multiple targets, called the weapons officer. We're actually hurting them! But the real surprise came when Sergeant Bo-Ra, Im's marine assault ship, launched from the Soul's Pride. The idea of boarding an enemy vessel in space combat was so foreign to alien thinking that most species didn't even have words for it. Assault Team Alpha, prepare for boarding action, Sergeant Im announced to her squad of 30 Marines. Each soldier wore heavy-powered armor and carried weapons designed for close-quarters combat in zero gravity. Sergeant, called Admiral O over the communication system, are you certain about this plan? Sir, the Void Hunters have never faced human boarding tactics. Their ships are designed to fight other ships, not infantry inside their own hulls. The Marine assault craft was essentially a heavily armored missile with soldiers inside. It accelerated toward the nearest damaged Void Hunter vessel, using shaped charges to punch through the hull and create an entry point. What? Sergeant Im and her Marines found inside the Void Hunter ship changed everything they thought they knew about the enemy. The interior was not mechanical at all. Organic corridors pulsed with a sick purple light. The walls seemed to breathe, and strange sounds echoed through the twisted passages. "Command, this is Assault Alpha," Im reported through her radio. The enemy ships appeared to be living creatures, not constructed vessels. "Understood, Sergeant. Continue mission." The Marines moved through the ship with practiced efficiency. They had trained for boarding actions against every known ship type in the galaxy. But this was unlike anything they had encountered. They found the ship's control center, a vast chamber filled with floating biomechanical pods, connected by nerve-like cables. Inside the pods were creatures that might once have been alien beings, but were now fused with the ship's living systems. "They're not invaders," Im realized with horror. "They're victims. The Void Hunters are using other species as components for their ships." The discovery changed the entire nature of the battle. These weren't just enemy ships to be destroyed. They were prisons holding captured alien minds. Dr. Kang, monitoring the Marine assault from the fleet, quickly ran analysis on the biomechanical systems and was discovering. "Admiral," he called urgently, "if Sergeant Im is right about the ship's biological nature, we might be able to disrupt their control systems." "How?" "Humans have a unique neural pattern compared to other galactic species. Our brains operate on different frequencies. If we can introduce human neural patterns into their ship's nervous system," Admiral O understood immediately, "we might be able to confuse or overwhelm their control systems." "Exactly. But it would require direct neural contact." On the Void Hunter ship, Sergeant Im was already ahead of them. She had found what appeared to be the ship's central nervous system, a massive, pulsing brain-like structure connected to thousands of neural pathways. "Command, requesting permission to attempt direct interface with enemy ship systems." "Sergeant, that could be extremely dangerous," Admiral O warned. "Sir, with respect, this entire mission is dangerous. But if Dr. Kang's theory is correct, I might be able to shut down this ship from the inside." Im removed her helmet and approached the alien neural interface. The moment her bare skin touched the biomechanical surface, pain shot through her mind like lightning. She could feel the trapped consciousnesses of dozens of alien beings, all screaming in silent agony. But she could also feel the ship's control systems, and more importantly, she could feel them reacting to her human neural patterns like a computer virus. The Void Hunter ship began to convulse and twist as its control systems fought against the alien sensation of human thought patterns. On the bridge of the Dagu's Hammer, sensors showed the enemy vessel's power fluctuating wildly. "It's working," Dr. Kang called out. "The ship's biomechanical systems are rejecting human neural input." Across the battlefield, other Marine teams were successfully boarding additional Void Hunter vessels. Each boarding action resulted in another enemy ship becoming confused and disabled, but the cost was high. Several Marines, including brave volunteers like Corporal Taewon Han and Private Sujin Lee, died when their neural interfaces caused feedback that fried their brains. Sergeant Im, still connected to the first ship's nervous system, felt each death like a physical blow. But she also felt something else. The trapped alien minds were fighting back. The pain she had caused the ship's systems was giving the prisoners the strength to resist their captors. "All human vessels," she transmitted through the ship's own communication system, "the captured aliens inside these ships are fighting back. Keep the pressure on." The battle turned into something no one had expected. Instead of ship-to-ship combat, it became a rescue mission. Human Marines boarded Void Hunter vessels not just to destroy them, but to free the alien minds trapped inside. When the last Void Hunter ship was either destroyed or disabled, Admiral O looked out at the battlefield with mixed emotions. They had won, but the cost had been terrible. 15 human ships damaged or destroyed, over 300 Marines dead or wounded. But they had also rescued nearly 10,000 alien prisoners from the Void Hunter bioships. Beings who had been thought dead for months were suddenly free. Captain Kyung-Soo Choi's voice came over the fleet communication system. "Admiral, We're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading. Every species in the Council wants to know how we did it. Admiral O looked at the rescued aliens being transferred to medical ships. Centaurians, Altarians, beings from species he had never even heard of. All alive because human Marines had been willing to risk their lives boarding enemy ships. "Tell them the truth, Captain," he said quietly. "We did what had to be done." Elder Veltara's face appeared on the communication screen, and for the first time in months she was smiling. "Admiral O," she said, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must apologize. We asked you for help with evacuation. We never imagined you would actually fight the Void Hunters and win." "Elder," O replied, "sometimes the best way to help people evacuate is to remove the thing they're running from. The victory at Kepler had proven that the Void Hunters could be beaten. But as intelligence reports, news of the human victory at Kepler spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in months, the Galactic Council broadcast spoke of hope instead of despair. But in the command centers of Earth's military, the mood was grimly focused. Colonel Sung-Ho Bei stood in the tactical planning room aboard the mobile command ship in Chansville, surrounded by holographic displays showing Void Hunter movements throughout the galaxy. Each red dot represented an enemy force, and there were far too many of them. "The problem," he explained to his assembled staff, "is that Kepler was just a scouting force. Intelligence estimates put the main Void Hunter fleet at over 1,000 ships. Captain Yunji Wu, recently promoted after her heroic actions in the Outer Rim, studied the tactical displays with concern. Colonel, even with our new boarding tactics and kinetic weapons, we can't fight 1,000 ships with what we have. Which is why we're not going to fight them conventionally," Colonel Bei replied. "Major Kim has been developing new strategies based on what we learned from the rescued prisoners. Major Insu Kim activated a new holographic display, showing the internal structure of a Void Hunter bioship. The alien prisoners we rescued have given us detailed information about how these ships operate. The Void Hunters don't just capture other species, they study them, learn from them, and incorporate their knowledge into their own systems." "Meaning?" asked Captain Wu. "Meaning they're not just predators. They're parasites that adapt to whatever they encounter. Every species they've absorbed has made them stronger and smarter." Colonel Bei nodded grimly. "But that adaptation ability is also their weakness. They're not expecting human tactics because they've never encountered humans before. We can use that surprise to our advantage." The new human strategy was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive fleet battles, Earth's forces began using hit-and-run tactics, psychological warfare, and technological tricks that the Void Hunters couldn't understand or counter. Captain Wu led the first of these new missions. Her squadron of modified fighters attacked a Void Hunter supply convoy in the Proxima sector, using tactics that would have seemed insane to conventional military thinking. "All fighters, begin Ghost Protocol," she ordered. The human ships activated experimental phase shift generators, technology adapted from captured Void Hunter equipment. For brief periods, the fighters could partially exist between dimensions, making them nearly impossible to target. The Void Hunters, encountering their own technology used against them, reacted with confusion and panic. Their biomechanical brains couldn't process how solid matter could phase shift without the specific biological adaptations they used. In the chaos, Wu's squadron destroyed 3 supply ships and escaped before the Void Hunter escorts could organize a proper response. Similar attacks began happening across the galaxy. Human Special Forces teams used converted mining equipment to bore through Void Hunter hulls from unexpected angles. Civilian cargo ships were rigged with massive explosives and sent on suicide runs that mimicked normal supply convoys. The psychological impact was devastating. The Void Hunters, accustomed to predictable alien behavior, found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to have no rules or logic. Dr. Youngmin Kang, working with rescued alien scientists, discovered another crucial piece of information about their enemy. "The Void Hunters have a hive mind structure," he explained to the joint human-alien research team. "But it's not like insect hives. Each ship maintains individual consciousness while being connected to a larger network." Dr. Hanul Seo, his research partner, pointed to bioscan data from the boarding missions. "Look at these neural patterns. When Sergeant Im interfaced with that first ship, she didn't just disrupt its controls. She introduced chaos into their communication network. Are you saying human neural patterns are like a virus to their systems? Asked Elder Veltara, who had become an unlikely ally since the Kepler victory. More than that, Dr. Kang replied. Human thought patterns seem to be fundamentally incompatible with their hive mind structure. We don't think collectively the way they do. Our individual consciousness confuses their shared awareness. This discovery led to the development of neural broadcasting equipment. Human volunteers, led by brave individuals like communications specialist Jung-Ah Kim, learned to project their consciousness directly into Void Hunter communication networks. The effect was devastating. Void Hunter fleets that had operated in perfect coordination suddenly found their ships acting independently, often working against each other. Some bioships even turned on their own fleetmates, their captured alien prisoners using the neural chaos to break free of Void Hunter control. But the humans' greatest tactical innovation came from an unexpected source. Sergeant Bora Im, recovering from her neural interface injuries, proposed a strategy that shocked even her own commanders. We need to stop thinking of this as a war between fleets, she told the assembled military leadership during a video conference from her hospital bed. The Void Hunters aren't just using ships. They're using entire captured populations as weapons. We need to turn those populations against them. How do you propose we do that? Asked General He Jin Nam. We go inside their breeding ships and start a revolution. The plan was incredibly dangerous. Void Hunter breeding ships were massive biovessels that contained thousands of captured aliens, being slowly converted into components for new ships. Getting inside one would require a boarding action on a scale never before attempted. Captain Min-Soo Park, commander of the heavy assault ship Busan's Fury, volunteered to lead the mission. His ship was modified with the largest neural broadcasting array ever built, designed to project human consciousness patterns throughout an entire Void Hunter vessel. The theory is sound, explained Dr. Kang as the mission preparations continued. If we can introduce enough human neural chaos into a breeding ship's systems, the captured aliens should be able to resist the conversion process long enough to fight back. The target was a massive Void Hunter breeding complex in the Andromeda Relay Station. Intelligence indicated that over 50,000 captured aliens were being held there, slowly transformed into biomechanical components. Captain Park's assault force included 300 of Earth's best Marines and the most advanced boarding equipment ever developed. They also carried something unprecedented: volunteers from every major alien species who wanted to help rescue their people. Elder Veltara herself insisted on joining the mission, despite the protests of her own people. You humans have shown us that sometimes peace requires war, she told Captain Park as they prepared for launch. Now let us show you that sometimes former enemies can become the strongest allies. The approach to the breeding complex was conducted in complete radio silence. The Busan's Fury and its escort ships used every stealth technology Earth had developed, combined with alien sensor dampening fields. When they finally attacked, the assault was swift and overwhelming. Shaped charges punched holes through the breeding ship's biohull, and Marine teams poured through the breaches while Captain Park activated the neural broadcasting array. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Throughout the massive ship, captured aliens began breaking free of their biomechanical restraints as human thought patterns disrupted the Void Hunter control systems. But the rescued aliens didn't just escape. They fought back. Centaurians used their natural telepathic abilities to coordinate resistance. Altarians employed their advanced technical knowledge to sabotage ship systems. Other species contributed their own unique capabilities to the growing rebellion. What had been intended as a rescue mission became something much more significant. The captured aliens, freed from Void Hunter control, began systematically dismantling the breeding complex from the inside. Captain, reported Sergeant Im, who had insisted on joining the mission despite her injuries, we're not just freeing prisoners. We're turning their own ship into a weapon against them. The breeding complex, now controlled by its former prisoners, was turned against the Void Hunter fleet. The massive bioship's own weapons were used to destroy 3 smaller Void Hunter vessels before the enemy could react. When the mission was complete, over 40,000 aliens had been rescued, and an entire Void Hunter breeding facility had been destroyed. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned that the Void Hunters could be beaten from within. Reports of the successful breeding ship assault spread throughout both human and alien forces. More alien volunteers began joining human military units, bringing their own unique abilities to the fight. The war was changing. What had started as a human military response to an alien request for help was becoming a true galactic resistance movement. But intelligence reports indicated that the main Void Hunter fleet was accelerating toward the galactic core. They knew now that their victims could fight back, and they were moving to end the war before the resistance could grow stronger. "We've proven we can beat them," General Nam said during a strategy meeting with Allied commanders. "But can we beat them fast enough?" The answer would depend on what happened next. The final confrontation was approaching, and the fate of galactic civilization hung in the balance. Elder Veltara, now wearing modified human combat armor, looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching enemy. The Vega system had become the final battleground for galactic civilization. Here, where ancient alien civilizations had first reached for the stars, the largest fleet in recorded history prepared for what everyone knew would be the decisive battle. Fleet Admiral Min Jun Ryu stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Earth's Promise. Looking out at a sight that would have been impossible just months before, human warships flew in formation with alien vessels that had been hastily converted for combat. Peaceful exploration ships now bristled with weapons. Scientific research vessels carried Marines instead of scholars. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "final ship count is complete. We have 837 vessels ready for combat." It was an impressive number, but everyone knew it wasn't enough. The Void Hunter fleet approaching Vega was nearly twice that size, and their ships were larger and more advanced than anything the Alliance could field. "Dr. Seo?" Admiral Ryu called to the chief scientist. "What's the status on the Dimensional Rift project?" Dr. Haneul Seo looked up from her portable research station with exhaustion clear on her face. She had been working for weeks on humanity's most desperate plan, a way to permanently end the Void Hunter threat. "The calculations are complete, Admiral. We can create a controlled dimensional rift that will send the Void Hunters back to whatever dimension they came from. But, someone has to stay on the other side to stabilize the rift from within. It's a one-way trip." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. To save the galaxy, someone would have to sacrifice themselves in a dimension where no rescue was possible. "I'll do it," said Commander Ji-Hoon Park quietly. He had volunteered the moment Dr. Seo explained the mission requirements. "I've studied the dimensional technology more than anyone except Dr. Seo herself." Admiral Ryu looked at the young commander with respect and sadness. "Commander, this isn't a decision to make lightly. With respect, sir, none of the decisions we've made in this war have been light. Earth sent warriors when the galaxy asked for peace. Sometimes warriors have to make the ultimate sacrifice." Before Admiral Ryu could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. The Void Hunter Armada had arrived. The enemy force that emerged from the dimensional void was unlike anything they had faced before. The individual ships were massive biomechanical constructs, but they moved with perfect coordination, as if they were all parts of a single organism. At the center of the formation was something that defied description, a structure so large it was more like a small moon than a ship. This was the Void Hunter Prime Entity, the source of their hive mind and the key to their power. "All ships," Admiral Ryu announced over the fleet communication system. "This is what we've been preparing for. Every species in this galaxy is counting on us. Show them what we're capable of when we fight together." The battle began with a massive exchange of fire that lit up the Vega system like a new star. Human kinetic weapons and alien energy beams met Void Hunter bioplasma in a devastating display of military power. But this time, the Alliance was ready for the Void Hunter's phase-shifting abilities. Dr. Kang's research teams had equipped every ship with neural broadcasting arrays, filling space around the battle with human thought patterns that disrupted enemy coordination. Captain Yunji Wu led the fighter squadrons in a desperate attack on the Void Hunter perimeter. Her modified starfighter, equipped with experimental phase-shift technology, danced between enemy ships while her weapons tore through biomechanical hulls. "Wing leader to all fighters," she called over the radio. "Remember what we learned from the breeding ship mission. These things are strongest when they work together. Scatter their formations and make them fight as individuals." The human fighters, joined by alien pilots who had learned human tactics, swarmed through the Void Hunter fleet like angry insects. They couldn't destroy the massive enemy ships, but they could confuse and separate them. Meanwhile, Colonel Sung-Ho Bay was leading the largest boarding action in military history. Hundreds of assault ships launched from the Alliance fleet, carrying marine teams from a dozen different species toward the Void Hunter capital ships. Sergeant Bo-Ra Im, despite her injuries from previous neural interfaces, led one of these teams aboard the enemy flagship. Her target was the ship's central nervous system, where she would attempt to plant a neural virus that would spread throughout the Void Hunter hive mind. "Remember," she told her mixed human-alien squad as their assault ship approached the enemy hull. "These creatures have absorbed the knowledge of every species they've conquered. They know how we think, how we fight, but they don't know how we think together." The boarding actions were brutal and chaotic. Inside the Void Hunter ships, Marine teams fought through organic corridors that seemed to resist their presence. The biomechanical defenders were unlike anything in conventional warfare. Part machine, part living creature, part captured alien consciousness. But the Alliance forces had advantages the Void Hunters couldn't understand. Human tactical thinking combined with alien technical knowledge created solutions that no single species could have developed. Elder Velterra, now serving as a combat coordinator, used her people's telepathic abilities to maintain communication between scattered Marine teams. Centaurian engineers disabled enemy systems while human soldiers provided covering fire. Other alien species contributed their own unique skills to the coordinated assault. The tide of battle shifted when Sergeant Im successfully interfaced with the enemy flagship's nervous system. The neural virus she planted began spreading through the Void Hunter communication network, causing ships throughout their fleet to lose coordination and turn on each other. But the real breakthrough came when Commander Park launched his desperate mission toward the Prime Entity Flying, a specially modified ship equipped with Dr. Seo's dimensional rift generator. He approached the massive central structure that controlled the entire Void Hunter force. The ship was essentially a flying bomb, designed to tear open a hole in space-time itself. "All ships, this is Commander Park," he announced as defensive fire from the Prime Entity began tearing his ship apart. "Initiating dimensional rift sequence. Whatever happens next, remember that the galaxy chose to fight instead of run. That choice made all the difference." The dimensional rift that opened near the Prime Entity was beautiful and terrifying. Space itself twisted and folded as a gateway opened to the dimension from which the Void Hunters had originally come. But the rift was unstable. Without someone on the other side to anchor it properly, it would collapse within minutes, allowing the Void Hunters to escape and return later. Commander Park's ship, badly damaged by enemy fire, limped toward the dimensional gateway. Through his communication system, he could hear the voices of the entire Allied fleet, human and alien alike, wishing him luck and thanking him for his sacrifice. "Dr. Seo," he called just before entering the rift. "Remember to name it after something beautiful. These creatures came from somewhere dark, but they're going back somewhere that should represent hope." The dimensional gateway stabilized as Commander Park's ship crossed into the alien dimension. From the other side, working with equipment that was rapidly failing, he managed to reverse the rift's polarity and turn it into a massive gravitational pull. One by one, the Void Hunter ships were drawn into the dimensional void. The smaller vessels went first, followed by the larger bioconstructs. Finally, the Prime Entity itself was pulled through the gateway, its massive bulk disappearing into the swirling portal. The last transmission from Commander Park came just as the rift began to close. "Mission accomplished. The galaxy is safe. Tell them Earth kept its promise." When the dimensional gateway finally collapsed, the Vega system was silent except for the celebration calls from Alliance ships. The Void Hunter threat was ended forever, but the cost had been enormous. Hundreds of ships destroyed, thousands of casualties from a dozen different species, and one brave human commander lost in an alien dimension with no hope of rescue. Admiral Ryu stood on his bridge, looking out at the mixed fleet of human and alien vessels. They had won, but victory felt bittersweet. "Admiral," called Elder Velterra over the communication system, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to say something that should have been said months ago. When we pleaded for peace, Earth sent its warriors. We thought you didn't understand what we needed, but you understood better than we did." "How so, Elder?" "Peace isn't the absence of conflict. Peace is what exists when good people are willing to fight for it. You taught us that lesson. In the months that followed, the galaxy rebuilt. A memorial was erected at Vega, honoring not just Commander Park but all those who had died defending civilization. The memorial bore a simple inscription in dozens of languages. They fought so others could live in peace. The Galactic Council was restructured, with Earth taking a leading role in galactic defense. Human military academies were established throughout Allied space, teaching other species the arts of war that they had forgotten. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy thought about peace itself. No longer was it seen as the natural state of the universe. Instead, it was understood as something precious that required constant vigilance and occasional sacrifice to.